Hi guys, this is Harry Hoffman. This week we talk about member care models. Today is week 2, day 1. My daughter started a new job for the German Development Agency and she's on her way to move to an Asian country, and it's just amazing what the German government does in preparing her for the move overseas. It's a whole package, and it makes sure that she's safe and she knows what's to do. There is a lot of crisis management and crisis contingency plans there, and it's the concept that she's not alone. She doesn't go there as an individual, but there is a responsibility towards family, towards the culture in Asia, towards the German culture, and also the diplomatic relationships. There is a responsibility by the German government to get her back in case there is a crisis. I think of many missionaries who are just going. They are oblivious about the consequences of their action. And I think about a guy in Yemen. God called him from a neighboring country into Yemen and he disappeared. So what happens if there was a German guy? If the German guy disappears, the German government gets involved, the family gets involved. There are people who are traumatized by this, and well, I think after several months he appeared again. There is another case in China where a family from the Pacific Islands, they tried to adopt a child, and that Chinese child lived with them. They drove in a car, had a car accident, and that Chinese child died. The country from the South Pacific had no embassy in China, and the family, the couple, ended in prison. So you do things and you have to consider the consequences of what other people might be involved in this. Your government, your family, your church. You don't live in isolation, but you live in a network of relationships and a network of responsibilities. And this is what I want to emphasize today, a network of responsibilities. So a good old friend of mine, Dave Pollock, he created this model of the flow of care. The flow of care, and from recruitment to retirement. And I will introduce those different stages of the flow of care today and share a bit about it. Step number 1 is recruitment. Does the missionary who is being recruited have a very clear calling? And does the agency have a very clear calling? And does that match? Is there a clear communication what that means to go overseas, to go to a different country, to a different people group? Part of recruiting is also honesty and truthfulness in the advertisement. Many organizations, they just need the 20% of the fundraised money of the missionary. Other organizations, like, they might just need staff for the next school and for the base. And you gotta have permission to ask tough questions. As a sender, they have responsibility when they recruit you and when they send you, and they don't know everything. So if they give you all the right answers, then don't go there. Screening. Step number 2 is screening. Some organizations have a whole battery of tests, of psychological assessments. They look into your past, into your history, moral behavior, immoral behavior, how often have you been married, how are your kids doing with God, etc., etc. Other organizations, they ask you to join a training, a school, or 3 weeks or 3 months or even 6 months training to prepare you for the assignment and also to check you out. Is there a fit? Do you have what it takes from their point of view? Is the calling confirmed during this initial training? And and that is sort of their screening. So you have a testing and you have schools and trainings. Screening, especially for the family, for a couple and for a family, is challenging because you also, depending on the age of the kids, there is a high risk involved. Where do the kids go to school? How will they grow up? How safe is it? So this has to be taken into consideration. And is the family union strong enough? The same for a couple. If one person in a married couple has a calling and the other person doesn't have a calling, what does that mean? Do they have what it takes to deal with that as a couple? And usually a school for 3 weeks, 3 months, 6 months is very helpful to get to know the dynamic of the couple and check them out if they have what it takes. Step number 3 is preparation and pre-departure orientation. There are so many practicalities until the point of departure. There are emotional practicalities, there are social practicalities, saying goodbye to all of your friends, support raising, saying goodbye to family and relatives, making sure they understand, dealing with understanding or not understanding why you go overseas. Not everybody has a Christian family. So you have the emotional, then the practical, packing your house, finding storage place to your valuables. What do you take? What don't you take with you? And those practicalities need time, needs guidance, needs help. Number 4 is the actual departure. Dave Pollock and Ruth van Recken developed this RAFT model, R-A-F-T. R stands for reconciliation. You might leave for a very long time. Are there any relationships that are not well that you need to go back to and reconcile? A stands for affirmation. Go back to your friends, go back to your loved ones and tell them something nice. Affirm the relationship, affirm your feelings for them, the love, the honor, the appreciation for them. RAFT F stands for farewell. Do a really good farewell, especially if you have many friends, if you have family. And T stands for think destination, which is a positive expectation about your future, which you can communicate also to your friends. That's departure. Have a set date when you leave and get people to come to the airport. Number 5 is arrival. We first arrived in Taiwan and there was a guy who picked us up at the airport. Have somebody pick you up, have somebody take you to a place where you can stay in a hotel or you have an apartment, and have someone invite you for meals and get to know the community. And after a while, you also need language school, you need schooling for your kids if you have any. You are being invited to meals, to church, to cell group, and make sure you get to know the people in your organization and maybe your neighbors as well, your language teacher, etc. So this is the arrival part, which is so crucial and so key, that this is embedded in kind of a caring system, that because the anxieties are really high. But if there is a caring system provided by your organization, then your anxiety can go lower and lower, and you can actually, as a couple, as a family, you can carry one another's burdens much more easily. Number 6 is the on-the-field care. And there are a variety of mechanisms, of tools that help people to feel cared for on the field. Some organizations do an annual appraisal. They have a one-on-one and ask, how are you doing? Some organizations use the Cerny-Smith assessment that looks at the organizational well-being, your cross-cultural adjustment, how are you doing family-wise, locally, and as well with your family back home. How are you doing physically, psychologically, relationally, health-wise, spiritually, etc. So this is a tool that helps you assess how are you doing. Other organizations don't do anything. They have meetings weekly, every second week, staff meetings. And so there is a relationship side to things that you just check on one another. Make sure that you are well. Other organizations, they encourage that people go to a local church or an international church, if that's available, to make sure they are being pastored there. So the on-field care can have a big spectrum, and we will talk more about that during this week. Number 7 is prepare to go home. What is typically being done is debriefing workers before they go home. But the returning home is also stressful because home is not what home used to be. You have developed in a certain cross-cultural side, and your home church and your home culture has developed. And the longer you've been gone, the bigger the gap gets. And it's important for you to realize that home might not be home anymore. So returning home, have a debriefing, talk to somebody, prepare well emotionally, physically, and make appointments in churches with medical doctors and stuff like this is very important. Number 8 is re-entry, and re-entry is a tough one, especially for those who've been gone 10, 15, 20 years. There are services that help people process the changes that occurred, organizational debriefing, emotional debriefing. The longer you are gone, my suggestion is the longer you give yourself to re-enter. It takes a long time. Usually we say it takes a whole year. It takes the 4 seasons of the year, if you have seasons in your country. And ask your church to keep on supporting you for another year, at least for another year, to get settled and to figure out the way. Re-entry is also difficult because you might be unemployed. You might not find a job right away. Re-entry is also difficult because on the field you were a specialist, you were a leader, and you get back home and you are nobody anymore. I mean, the emotional impact of a re-entry is massive. And I'm so glad that we have member care resources that focus on that. Number 9 is ongoing support. And I like that Dave Pollock focuses on 3 groups of people. One is the third culture kids. Kids who grew up overseas, they need ongoing support. Kids who grew up overseas, they come back to their so-called home country. They don't feel at home. They feel much more international than national. So that's difficult. The second group that needs ongoing support are the retirees. They need special care, the retirees. Some retirees don't have money, so they didn't save enough for their retirement. And the third group that needs ongoing care is the injured. There are tons of missionaries who come home who are injured, and we need to develop more and more resources to help support the injured missionaries that return. And make sure that they are embedded in a system of care and that they find vessels of healing for their soul. So today I gave you a broad picture from recruitment to retirement. It's by no means comprehensive and a lot of details are missing. Tomorrow we will talk about the 7 levels of wellness and care, and I look forward to seeing you again. Bye for now.